In this video, we will learn about strings in C++. A string is text inside of double quotes. To access the string class, we need to import it by using the include preprocessor directive and typing string inside of angular brackets. To save us from having to type std::: in front of the references we make to classes from the standard library, we can type using namespace std. Let's look at how we can create a string using C++ code and how we can work with strings. For example, we will have a string variable named s that we set equal to the string hello world. Strings are essentially text inside of double quotes. Let's output s to the console. When we run the code, notice that hello world was output. We can obtain the length of a string by using the size function. For example, let's create an int variable named length, which we set to s.size. Then we will output length to the console. When we run the code, notice that 11 is printed. This makes sense since the string hello world is 11 characters long. Note that the space in between the words hello and world counts as a character. One important concept when working with strings is called indexing. Each character in a string is assigned an index that represents its position. Indexing starts at 0. This means that the first character in the string is at index 0. The second character is at index 1. The third character is at index 2, so on and so forth. To illustrate this, we can output the character at index 0 to the console. Note the syntax here. The position or index goes inside of square brackets. When we run the code, notice that h was printed to the console. If we specify an index of 1 and then run the code, notice that e was output to the console. This makes sense, since the index of the character e in the string s is 1. Utilizing indexing allows us to do much more than just obtain the value of the character at that index. We can also change its value. For example, let's set the character at index 0 equal to lowercase h. If we output s to the console, notice that the first letter is a lowercase h instead of a capital one. We can also perform slicing of a string, which means grabbing a part of the string, also known as a substring. To do this, we can use the substring function. For example, let's output s.substring and pass in 0 as the first argument, which represents the starting position, and 5 as the second argument, which represents the ending position. One important callout here is that the end position is exclusive, meaning that the end position will go up to, but not including the number specified. So the substring will consist of characters at indices 0 through 4. When we run the code, notice that hello was output to the console. This makes sense since h has an index of 0, e has an index of 1, l has an index of 2, l has an index of 3, and o has an index of 4. Another example of slicing a substring would be if we pass in a value of 6. When we only specify one argument to the substring function, it is the start position, and the substring will go to the end of the string. Notice that when we run the code, world was output to the console. Strings are an incredibly important data structure in computer programming, so it is important to understand how to work with them when coding in C++.